Well, also today, you probably know, while we talk about the first anniversary of the coalition, there is a march timed to coincide with that anniversary by disabled people. More than 1,000 people have turned out in central London to demonstrate against the government's cuts, and they have called the march the hardest hit protest, essentially making the point that they feel that disabled people up and down the UK are being those worst affected by the continuing austerity measures that we talk much about at the moment. Let's cross to central London, not far from that march, because as you see, we're joined from there by the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, Byrne. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
I think I see from Twitter that you have been addressing all those who've turned out. What have you been hearing? What did you say to them, and what are you hearing in response about why they wanted to turn out and protest today?
Well, behind me in the House of Commons right now, the welfare reform bill is going through. And unfortunately, it's turning into another one of those policy areas where the government has just not thought things through, a little bit like some of their changes proposed on the National Health Service. And so what they haven't realised is that their cuts actually propose taking benefits away from people who are still recovering from cancer and still receiving chemotherapy. It would actually cut benefits from people who are living in residential care homes, money that helps them get round and about. And perhaps worst of all, it actually takes money away from children with disabilities. So this bill is not thought through, and people wanted to come here today in person to send that message straight to government ministers and government MPs.
The government is arguing, as you may know, that it wants the money to go to the right people, to the most deserving people. Do you have any sympathy with that? I mean, is there a sense in which the government is trying to rebalance things so that the people who are the most needy are still getting some state help? They argue that they've thought it through, of course.
Well, we think that the benefit system does need reforming, and we do think that new tests are needed, for example, to see who is fit enough to get back into work. People should be going to get a job, frankly, if they can work. But the problem with the way that this welfare bill has been sort of cobbled together is that it hasn't been thought through. And so instead of cutting the welfare bill by pushing unemployed people into jobs, it's beginning to cut the welfare bill by pushing disabled people into poverty. And we just think that they need to pause, they need to listen to the stories that they hear from people with disabilities today, and they need to rethink, and they need to take on board some of the amendments that Labour is making. Very sensible, practical, calm amendments that would save potentially billions of pounds, but would help make sure that people who need help actually get the help when they need it.
I mean, you use the word pause, but just to pick one example, those new tests that are coming through to assess people for their various disability benefits, that's a process that's already started. I think, again, the government would say to you, well, we all know the state we're in. We have to get this process underway. We have to make sure the right people are getting the right money. You can't pause forever. You have to crack on if you want to try to bring in a new system.
Well, Labour introduced the changes for some of the people who are on incapacity benefit. The problem with the welfare reform bill is that the benefit shake-up goes much wider than that, and it's very much a big bang approach, and it hasn't been thought through. And that's why they've ended up in an extraordinary position where people who are still recovering from cancer, still getting chemotherapy, will actually get benefits that they've paid into cut and taken away from them. Now, most people in this country just wouldn't think that was fair. Equally, if you've got disabled children, it's a heck of a job bringing up disabled children well. There are extra needs that need paying for. A lot of those disability premia, as they're called in the benefit system, are going to be axed. So there are just lots of these benefit changes that are all been driven through in great haste all at once. They haven't been thought through, just like the changes on the National Health Service. And we're saying, look, pause for a bit, listen to some of the things that Labour's saying, listen to the stories that you hear from disabled people today and their families, and think again about how you can get these changes right.
All right, Byrne, thank you for now. Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, of course, thank you.